Abraham Lincoln once said, "I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down." There's so many pieces of that quote that we're going to talk about today indirectly, but let me analyze that for you just really briefly before we get into the show. I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me. Leadership is a pathway that must be forged, and we cannot keep taking the route that was cut 10, 15, or 20 years prior to our leadership pathway that we currently walk. When you hire, recruit, or receive new leaders into your organization, it is up to you to partner with them. You are that friend that believes in them, and you must believe in them, acknowledge their leadership, and then empower them so that they don't have the heart to let you down and the people that you two or three or whatever your leadership group consists of, so that they don't have the heart to let all of those people down. You are forming the leaders of the future, and they are your friends. They are your partners in that pathway. Forge a new one. Welcome back to the Tribe Has Spoken podcast. Today, that is exactly what we are going to be discussing, is the steps to develop new leaders, the initial steps to bring them in, recruit them, form them, and get them ready to lead. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome back to the Tribe Has Spoken podcast. I'm Kerry Castillo, head coach at Bentonville West High School for women's soccer. And as always, my here recently counterpart, since we've been talking the yin and yang of leadership, is Captain Alan Thompson. Captain, how you
Hey
been
guys,
doing?
how's it going? I'm a strength conditioning specialist and um, a veteran of the military, and I'm kind of giving a little different perspective of leadership. Typically, what we do is Coach Castillo talks a little bit more on the sports side of it, and I'll throw in a little bit of my aspects of it from the military standpoint. But our last one, I think, went really well, and we're going to kind of keep working that the yin and the yang. He's going to give out the good elements of what we're talking about, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how it's not done correctly. A little bit on seeing it from both sides, because we also talk up and down the scale. Man, let's dive into it. What do you say?
I love it. Actually, I think we're going to talk more specifically about practical ways, and I love the way you put this earlier. Practical ways to screw up or level up a growing leader.
Ooh, like it. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to let you go first. I love the points that you had to talk about that. I'm going to let you lead into it with Captain, what is a great way for you to go about screwing up a good leader?
So the kind of scenario that we're discussing right now is whether from the corporate side you've just hired on a new underling underneath you, a new supervisor or a new manager of some sort. On the sports side, you brought in a new assistant coach. And on the military side, maybe you've got a new platoon leader that just come in, a young lieutenant, somebody that's new to the organization, new to your company, and is just basically, we're talking about a new leader that is coming in. It's important to recognize that you have a great opportunity with this person. The things that you are showing them, the things that you're giving them, it's something that they can carry forth, and the impact on down the road for the leaders that they're going to end up, because they're going to train people down the road too. Eventually, that assistant coach is going to be a head coach somewhere. That platoon leader is eventually going to become a company commander, and a team lead is eventually going to become a department lead or department manager. So there's a lot of different things and a lot of different aspects of the way that you can impact your organization way far in the future, and you have the opportunity right out of the gate. And what are you going to do with it? For me, being the yang, I'm going to go with the first thing that hits me as a negative, and that's micromanagement. And if you're a micromanager, and I know we talked a little bit about this on the last podcast, but if you're a micromanager, what you are doing is you are stealing. You are stealing from that new person that's come in, and you're stealing because you're taking away their decision-making capabilities. That is how you are failing to set this person up for success. There are many reasons on why this happens. And maybe when we get into the yin part of it, where you discuss what you should do on intro when you first bringing people in, maybe it's a failure on your part to properly indoctrinate that person into your organization, to get them embedded with you, to get going with what your expectations are, what you see, how you see them functioning in their role. There's a lot of different ways, but if you as a leader are worried, if you're scared, if you fear what that person is going to do, so you tell them every single thing to do because you don't want them to do things autonomously, you don't want them to not line up with what you are wanting, that's your part. That's failure on your part because you didn't ever explain it properly. Or you hired the wrong person because you aren't comfortable with their capabilities.
Not comfortable with their capabilities. Why would someone hire someone when they're not comfortable with their capabilities?
Well, maybe they're the best worst choice. That's possible. Maybe it's a friend issue. It's somebody that you know, and yes, you want that person around you because they will follow your orders. In the case of the military, you're assigned someone that you don't get a choice. You don't get to go hand pick. You're not watching out there like it's the lieutenant combine and you're drafting the next officer coming into your company. Randomly a guy shows up, it's like, I'm new lieutenant here and I don't know what I'm doing. And you're like, well, this is going to be fun. Come on in. Let's join up. And in that scenario, you may not be comfortable with them because they're brand new to the organization, but it's your job to give them expectations and give them time. You've got to give them time to adjust. You've got to give them time to figure out how you guys do things and cut them loose. I mean, from your foxhole in the sports world, you brought in a new assistant. Have you ever had that? Have you experienced anything where you've got somebody that you're not 100%? You just met them. I mean, yeah, they talk the talk, but you haven't seen them walk the walk yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced something along those lines?
I've seen both sides of that. I've seen not just seen, I've experienced, lived, been a part of it. Both I've just been handed someone that I had no say in who was, and this process that we're talking about is obviously after an application process and an interviewing process by hopefully by us, if we're the direct leader up the chain from this person that's been hired, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've seen that and experienced it with, like you said, just being handed someone, hey, this is your new assistant. And I can tell you that did not go well whatsoever because, like you said, I had not seen them walk the walk. I had no idea what they were about. I've been very fortunate in the last 3 years. I've just hired a new assistant for this year. I've been very fortunate that I was an active part of that process of not just the interview process, but the search and the recruitment process. And I took a very active role in that. Not just active, I would say I probably led the way in that. But I asked for that responsibility. Mm-hmm. I knew that was coming, and so I asked for it. Hey, let me help with this search, and I'll bring you some quality people if you'll let me. And I was given that, which I'm appreciative of. So yes, absolutely have seen it. I would say, if your first step in messing up this new person that you're going to have to help become a leader that could very well emerge as a leader that may succeed you one day, right? Like you said, you said the first one of your first steps in really messing that up is micromanaging, and I think that's part of why someone would hire someone that when they're not confident in their capabilities is because that makes them easy to micromanage, and that would be the objective,
right? And that may be their management style,
right?
Jocko says, "Hey, there's only two management styles: effective and ineffective." And in that subcategory, micromanagement falls into the ineffective category for me.
Yeah. So rather than micromanaging them, I think I touched on last time, one, acknowledging the value of that person, and then empowering them as to who they are as a person, so that they feel like the skills they're bringing with them are not just enough, but are going to be things that they can lean on and use to become the leader they want to be, or that they can be. And they may not even be aware of just how effective a leader they might be. But if they believe in the things that they can bring into this role, then they will be able to grow straight away. I think the next part of that I would do is very much the opposite of micromanaging, is helping them realize their role as a leader. And we talked about this prior to starting the cast today, was just get out of the way. Give them the chance to lead, give them the opportunity to lead, add value to their role by the way you introduce them to the people that they're going to lead, by the things that you give to them, the brevity of it, the responsibilities that you're handing them, things that are important, right? Things that are going to actively and very, very deeply affect your program, in my case, your business in the corporate side, right? Give them things that are going to, one, demonstrate to everybody else that this person is very much a leader. This is their role. I'm acknowledging it, and then let them realize it, right? And part of that realization is some of the mistakes they'll make. And you said this so great. Again, before we started recording, you said, is their intent in line with what we believe in? Because if it is, even if they fail, and they will, it's okay. We're heading in the right direction. And we're doing things in line with the vision of the, I guess you would say in my case, head coach, right? Are they heading toward that vision still? And if they are, great. That's an opportunity to learn, even if they fail. So that would be my first step, is help them realize that role.
Yeah. So what kind of spurred that on was, for the listeners, the way that our show kind of works, we discuss what we're going to do for our topic, and then we kind of break away, and we both kind of look at the yin and the yang of it, and then we come back and have an active discussion before the show. Sometime we should do a pre-show show, and just so they can see how we work through our process a little bit.
Yeah.
And what brought that up was, for me, if I were the yin, one of the things that I would be looking for is that setting of expectations, with that person, and explaining my vision. So these are my expectations from you. These are my expectations from the team. These are the expectations you need to have for me, because this is what I plan on delivering to you. And once you've set that expectations, you basically said, this is what I want from you. This is what I want to get from you for the team. And this is what I need to be delivering to you. Because one of the things you always talk about is accountability and being open to accountability. At that point, you just told them, I'm going to do this for you, and you should hold me accountable. High five at your first day. I want you to hold your boss accountable. That's a big step. And so you've laid that expectation down, and once that expectation has been laid, you forecast the vision of what it's going to look like on down the road. Somebody can fail to meet your expectations, and that's okay if the vision is there. They can keep falling. Hey, we're trying to get to the top of that hill. you're going to fall on the way up the hill. Are you still going up the hill? Yes. Perfect. Keep going. We're going to get it. We're going to get it right. Yes, you failed the expectations, but you're going in the right direction.
I really love that you were saying that that's okay. It's all right if you fail, and also that it's okay if you hold me accountable. It's almost like giving them. It's empowering them first when they come into that role, but it's giving them some ownership, not just of, hey, you made a mistake and you have an opportunity to fix it. No. It's giving them ownership in the means by they can show you also when you make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you were also speaking to talking with this person and letting them know what you're all about. That's my first step when I try to hire an assistant or bring somebody into our program, is they first get to know what I'm all about, and then I tell them what the program is all about. These are the kind of people we are, and these are the kind of people we're trying to create, and this is why. And if you're not on board with that, or if you deviate from that wholeheartedly, and that's not, if you're just in it for me, if you're just in the coaching game to win games and championships and things of that nature, then you're not going to be a good fit, right? Yeah. And so, I tell them all these things up front so that I get in front of them. I get them in front of me as well. And I want to see their body language when we talk about these things. I want to see their facial expressions when I talk about these things. That'll tell me if they're really interested or not, and if they're going to be all about what we're all about. And so, yeah, that's super important, as well as hey, this is what I'm going to do for you. The moment I don't do it, you got to let me know.
Yep. But that all comes back to you on the accountability thing. And for the listeners, if you go back and you listen to our first podcast and the series that we're working on, these things align together, and they very much are intertwined. But this is how it works. We're laying it out there. It's not necessarily a straight path to get to perfection, but these are the things that they will work. If you start putting these processes in, start following these guidelines, you will be set for success, much like these leaders that we're talking about right now. Do you want to hit your next yin?
I'd love to. So after you acknowledge them, you empower them, you help them realize their role, then comes shared ownership. For me, that's where shared ownership comes in. And that's where you talked about this earlier, as especially an emerging leader, a new leader, especially in a new position. You don't know what you don't know. And so it's my responsibility as the leader of my program, if it's corporate, my business, etc., to give them the things they need, the information they need to help them be successful, and to show them how I'm successful in those realms. And then I can begin to give them pieces of that. Mm-hmm. And go, okay, I've showed you how to do that. Now I'd like for you to take this part and grow right there. This is what I'd like for you to grow in. Right.
Well, so it's interesting. What you're talking about right now hits the micromanaging part of it too, because if you're a micromanager and you are saying only do this my way, don't deviate, there's no way that person can take ownership for it. And we talked a little bit about that in the last show as well, but that acceptance of ownership, if you're doing somebody else's work the whole time, you own nothing. You've not put anything into it. Somebody else did all the work. All you're doing is telling somebody else to do something else. And that's not going to get them anywhere. But for the yang part of this as well, which what this is kind of leading into, is that hoarding information is a huge issue. And it's not necessarily it's not a skill-based discussion where we're talking about you've got some secret way to kick a soccer ball, and I've got some secret attack plan on the military side of it. That's not what we're talking about with this. It's more or less hoarding the information of how processes are completed within your particular organization. Whether it's on the corporate side, you've just joined and you've got a new boss and everything else, and you show up and you're like, okay, well, where's my computer? Well, the boss is like, oh, well, you got to go get it. Okay, well, where do I go get it from? You got to go get it from the computer department, IT department. Well, where's that? So all those things that you don't know, they're not forthcoming with that information. Whereas the way that something that in that scenario should be done is when you show up, hey, we've got to go get your computer. Let me show you where to go. Follow me down here. We'll help you get you set up. Oh, by the way, we got to get you set up with your email and passwords and whatever access that you need to documents and files, and making sure all that stuff is set up ahead of time. That hoarding of information where somebody is having to continually go ask for it, as opposed to it being provided openly and anticipating that need of information. You as a leader should anticipate this person is going to need to know all of these things. Let me prepare a packet. Let me prepare a document, or even for somebody that is going to succeed you moving forward. So you may take a position at another school. Hey, leave a continuity binder. In the military, that's what we do. We have a continuity binder. Hey, this is what the plans are for the next year. This is what I had in mind. And they can go with it, or they don't have to. They can make adjustments down the road, but at least their first time when they come over, take over your company because you're moving on, hey, they don't have to worry about what's happening tomorrow. They haven't had time to plan for it. They may not even know they were there until they showed up. But they show up and they've got a plan for the next year sitting there waiting for them. And the processes can continue. The guys can continue to do their thing. And that new leader does not have to try to come up with what the new plan is yet. It can continue on until they've had time to digest and see how everything's running. And maybe they want to take it in a different direction. And that's fine. But at least it's not immediate, and you're not getting whiplash as a new leader that's coming in.
I love that. Without having a pathway, they're going to get lost.
Oh yeah,
There's just some kind of pathway to get started, right? We discussed that we were going to give some practical ways that you can do this, right? So, in my realm anyway, when it comes to coaching, one of the ways that I address that's very practical is I found out what their strengths are, not just as a person, but what are your coaching strengths? What are your teaching strengths? What are your technological strengths, right? When it comes to different programs, but also organizational strengths. Okay, so I want to know all these things so that I can take my strengths and weaknesses and transpose those things and see where our gaps are, and then find out, okay, well, can you do this? And if so, okay, good, I'll give you ownership of that. Or maybe it's something we need to work on together. But then that also lends itself to shared ownership. Mm-hmm. Because now if it's a weakness of mine, I admit that, hey, I need you to help me with this. And I very actively do that with my current assistant. Hey, do you know this program? Yes, I do. Okay, I'd like to give that to you. And I don't give her instructions on this is how I'd like for you to organize it, or how I'd like for you to hold the players on the team accountable for that. I'll let her decide that. And she comes to me and goes, hey, what do you think about this idea? Because we have these people that haven't met these expectations, I need to hold them accountable. What do you think if it's a good idea, or if we talk through it, and I talk to her about the possible consequences and the possible positive outcomes of that. Because again, she doesn't know what she doesn't know.
Right. And that's a great point too, that it's a great teaching point for you, and you recognizing that this individual, this assistant, you're given multiple scenarios of potential outcomes based on your experience. And you can say, hey, I'd go with plan A, but I give it a shot. You pick A, B, or C and see what happens. And we'll see who's right. I mean, you can work it that way too. But I love that you're working on continuing to develop this person as a leader, because I mean, when you look at football, and I know we bring this up sometimes too, you go back and you look at like organizational charts and type things, and they talk about where certain coaches learned from head coach as they were assistants, they were going through. You talk about the Belichick tree, all the different coaches that were assistant coaches under Bill Belichick, all the things that they've learned from him coaching. We should look at ourselves the same way. Who have we inspired? Who have we taught? It's not just all about in your side of it. It's not just all about the soccer players, and my side, it's not all about the soldiers. It's about developing the leaders of those soldiers moving forward, because that's how you increase overall leadership comprehension is by really working with those leaders at that time.
Here are my takeaways from today's show. First, I love how Alan put this. You can't step out into a lieutenant combine and just pick who gets to come in as a new leader. And so that for me is exactly what we were talking about today. A lot of times you cannot directly bring in someone that's going to be a new leader in your organization. If you are fortunate enough to have that capability and the people up your chain believe in you enough that they would give you the power and the opportunity to go out and recruit new leaders that you're going to bring in, then take that with both hands and run with it. That is a wonderful opportunity, and it's a great chance for you to really observe and find out what that person's integrity is, and if they possess integrity, and what the vision for their lives is, and if those things align with the culture and the vision and your beliefs and values and that of your organization. So use that to your advantage. But if you don't have that advantage, then it is still your responsibility to shape and help form this new leader that is coming in underneath your direct chain, and to help them on their leadership pathway by observing their strengths and their skills, acknowledging their ability to lead within them and within your organization, helping them realize the leader that they are becoming, and when they are ready to take on more, sharing that ownership and then empowering them to do so. If you enjoyed today's show, I'm going to encourage you to catch the second part of it, where we talk about how to further grow these leaders after these initial steps. And we've also launched a newsletter. There's a link on Buzzsprout and on YouTube on our shows for you to follow and subscribe to that newsletter. We hope you have a blessed week, and will join us again. Thank you for joining us at The Tribe Has Spoken.